Dana Abercrombie, The Koalition. Thank you so much for speaking with me. With this series, I'm really fascinated by how the use and the playing with both time and silence when it came to this series. How did that come into play when it came to not only plotting out the episodes, but the characters around it?
Well, thank you for bringing up silence. The first thing I said when I was asked to do this was, I want the first episode to have no dialogue. And I was lucky enough to pull it off, except for maybe 4 or 5 pages of dialogue. I really wanted to explore the sense of being the last person on Earth. And to me, there's nothing scarier than quiet. If you go to a new Airbnb or you're visiting your friend's house, an unfamiliar place, and you're totally alone, the silence is like a threat that's following you, and the floorboards, and you can imagine the worst possible things happening. So I thought that was a great environment within which to set the first episode.
Yes, and I agree. I believe there was like 29 minutes until we finally got a conversation. So like, yay! Also with that, I was wondering the kind of the research that was involved with setting Earth. You know, we go from Earth as we know it to like 20-year span of what that looks like with less humans, almost, just a handful, and how it looks with the ecology, the environment, the grass, the trees, the birds. Yes.
So there, it's a couple of things, and we had to say, but going back to what he said, one thing I wanted to say about the first episode and working in silence, it was a difficult task to not do the usual things, which is put music or voiceover or any other kinds of noises in that first episode to allow that silence that he's talking about. And it was a struggle in post when, working with a composer and people who are used to putting music over things and saying, no, take it out, take it out. And it went against everybody's instincts. And eventually they said, it works beautifully. It was so good to take it out and just leave the dead space. So you get that feeling of isolation. But tracking the way that the world works was one of the most fun things I got to do on this show, because there's differing opinions. It depends on what book you read or what website you go to, what something would look like 20 years from now. So it was mostly guesswork and kind of what we figured, but we had a very detailed timeline for each scene, each character, wardrobe, hair, environment, landscape, right down to the vibrancy of, how the Earth would come back with no pollution. So it was very detailed, very thought through, and discussed a lot of what each year would look like.
And kind of going with time again, I'm fascinated how it was broken up within the years. Can you talk about using that as a plot device?
That's a great question. It was a burden at first to have to do 5 episodes, really, the last 5 episodes covering 50 years, because the first episode is essentially in real time. But that burden became a great storytelling tool. By using the time jumps as story doors, we could enter in at the birth of a child, or a birthday celebration, or a drought. We could enter in at story-driven and energetic difficulties or moments of joy that these people were experiencing. So instead of having the audience going, wait, 7 years went by, we're right into it. Like, 7 years went by, which allows us to keep touch with the characters, which are really, the characters are the ones holding our hands, taking us all the way to the end of the story.
Can you talk about using the book as a blueprint, but also, creating stuff that's your own?
You want to talk a little bit about the blueprint part of it?
But the blueprint it is all laid out there. I mean, there's a massive blueprint, and trying to find the specific scenes that would tell the story and the themes in one moment instead of spread out over many moments or scenes or years. That was the crucial part of it. I just lost the thread.
No, that's all right. I think she asked about how to make it my own. For me, it's love. I think there's a lot of love in the book, but there's a lot of love in this show. And really, I think the way forward, and all of us in our storytelling agreed that the way forward for humanity is love. Having closed fists and closed hearts is just a shortcut to more war. And if we're going to survive as a species, if we're not going to be kicked off by the Earth, if this group of billions of people are still going to survive, it's going to be through love.
Wonderful. Thank you both so much for speaking to me. Excellent series.
You're
Thank you.
awesome. You're my
Thank
favorite
you.
interview. Yes.